You know, there's always a risk people assume when you discuss things like this. What they fail to take into account is they don't ensure that people don't want to follow it by doing one simple step, by mocking the out of this joke of a f***ing human being.
Ha! Is it working? And that's incredibly sad. And maybe that's why I've suffered a little bit as of late. Hi, YouTubers.
Potheads, drunks, and smokers.
I filed for divorce with Skye.
Cute.
Are nowhere near as skinny as I am. Do you know who has to point out that they're about to be really honest? People who aren't normally honest. Hey guys, I made a vow to be positive and awesome. As of late. Vegetarian. Buddy!
I'm so pedophile.
Why do you have a camera on me?
It's pretty basic math.
I'm a dirty old man.
The fact that you put such private information online for everyone to see, that was so confidential.
About this narcissistic.
Please leave me alone like I've asked. I asked you to stop using my name and my information in your videos.
God, I can't wait to put you in a cage.
On that pothead f***ing moron.
Let's continue the song, shall we?
Facts! Give me facts. I want facts.
When the name Onision comes to the mind of your normal person, one might think, hey, is that a typo of the word onion? But for those of you who are YouTube drama savvy, or even savvy in the world of internet lolcows in general, a much different picture might form in one's head. I know for myself, a failure of a father, allegedly, and a borderline, if not complete predator, as well as a failed YouTuber comes to mind. Many people have attempted to detail the chaotic tale of Onision's online presence, but oftentimes, it is from a former fan or from someone who finds him morally reprehensible. Never have I myself seen a video that entails the entire roller coaster ride from a standpoint of mostly amusement, sometimes disgust, and many other times horror. The point of this video is to explore the early years of Onision, or Onion. I would love to go through the entirety in just one video, but this man's need to share every detail of his life rivals that of the OG best boy lolcow, Christian. I may get some things wrong, so always let me know in the comments and I will rectify it in my part 2 whenever that happens. Before I go into more details, Greg changes his name a lot. He has gone by Gregory Daniel, Gregory Jackson, and now I think he's calling himself like Jackson or something. He loves to try to change what people call him, and methinks that's just his attempt to try to run from the guilt of the actions he's done through the course of his life. In this video, we are covering Onision's early years as a part 1. It gets progressively worse over time. There are probably many reasons he gets worse over time. I believe he is a person with an undiagnosed and untreated personality disorder, who then gained an audience, and because of the lack of diagnosis and treatment, he was able to abuse the power of having an audience. Onion-sama's online presence isn't just a fun drama romp like, your common beauty YouTuber who said some meanie no-no things on Twitter.
I want to talk to you guys in this video. It's been so hard.
It's not solely a story of a bad man who gained power. It's a tale of madness. Let's just start from, well, the beginning. This is a rabbit hole to go down. One I did not expect to be so vast when I started. A rabbit hole of one crazy e-celeb and his goal to share every fricked up thing in his life. Onision, the early years. Onision was born on November 11th, 1985. According to him, the birth was not without problems, because he was born silently and blue. According to a post by Onision, his mom originally thought he was gonna be born retarded, his words, which arguably he might have. According to the text that Onision posted, his head was 14.5 inches around and his chest was 13.5. The scanners, he guessed, gave them the impression that he was going to be only a quarter wit, which might be true. Onision concludes, but luckily my mom decided not to abort, and here I am. I would love to say not much is known about Onision's early life, because what kind of person shares every little detail of their life? But One thing about this caveman-browed individual is that he shares everything. He made a post in 2005 to one of his many websites. Now, I'm not going to tell you every mundane detail Onision decided was interesting enough to tell everyone on. Instead, I chose a few sections that really relate to Onision's behaviors over the years. The key thing to notice with Onision is traits and patterns that he displays and how he never changes. With many people, as they grow older and wiser, they change. But with Onision, he does not. In fact, things he details in his life story from the tender age of 2 still stick with his personality to this day at age 33, now going on 34 soon. So at 2 years old, Onision Gregory tells us unfortunate readers that he fell off a pew and then cried a lot. I don't know why he felt the need to share this, but he writes in his little blog entry, "At the age of 2, I was told that I fell off the back of a church chair pew, head first, and smacked my head on the ground. My mom ran screaming out of the church, blood everywhere. I've always tended to bleed a lot of thick, irony blood. I was told her dress was ruined." Although he didn't give much insight into this little recollection of his, later on in life, from the early 2000s to present year, Onision has expressed a hatred for religion. Now, I may be reaching here, but me thinks perhaps he was bitter over God letting him get a boo-boo in church. Greg Jackson found himself in his first physical altercation in 2nd grade, so I'm assuming he was around 7 at this point. Greg details this fight saying, "Around the age of 7, I had thought I fell in love with a girl, so I spent time with her every day. Her name? Aubrey. How do I remember that? I knew her up until high school. The crush ended in 3rd grade. One day, a boy had decided to tell me she was his girlfriend, and that I should get away from her. His name was Philip. He said some nasty things, so I asked her if she minded watching me beat him. She said she did not. So I turned around and began swinging as hard and as fast as I could. I had longer hair then, so he grabbed my hair and flipped me around. I fell to the ground, yet on the ground and facing the other direction, still managed to land quite a few punches. The recess coach saw us and began screaming like a madwoman to stop. When it was over, he was crying. I remember smiling. He and I were okay from that point on, but he died 2 years later. When he was on a sled sliding into the road, he was crushed by a car. Perhaps this early moment in his life helped Greg become the sadistic little prick that he is, correlating his desire for a girl with some primal enjoyment of seeing someone else cry, because throughout his career he has made many a girl cry. It's not hard to draw parallels with even his earliest recollections with his current behaviors, even though I'm strictly trying to tell a story in a chronological manner here. I also think Greg is a gigantic boy, and I think he probably lost that fight, but I also hate him, so could just be me. Greg's early adolescence was not just glamorized fights. One of the entries details an act of bravery by Greg at the tender age of, I think, about 9. Well, it was 4th grade, which is like 9 years old. Even at a young age, Greg tells everyone that he saved another boy's life. He writes in his entry that, "I felt like a guard, an authority by the time I hit 4th grade. I always looked for someone to save, someone to help. I made a few friends by protecting them. It wasn't that I was any bigger than the other kids. I was just above average. It was that I was strong and fierce in fights." Remember how I said Greg's traits never change over the years? Well, this trait is one of the constant ones of him wanting to be a savior. Whether or not the story is true doesn't matter. Later in life, Onision claims to receive emails from fans that he cured them from things like body dysmorphia, self-harm, eating disorders, and more. You know, things that usually take therapy. Greg is so great that he can solve them in an afternoon of filming himself Googling things.
Not acknowledging the fact that not only have I done nothing illegal, but I've also done nothing to violate YouTube's policies regarding these body image videos that again have helped countless women with their own body image issues.
Now, in this case, instead of saving some faceless, probably fake people online, Onision fabricates a story where he single-handedly beat up 15+ bullies to save a 2nd grader who, in his words, later told him he saved his life. Greg has a hero complex. But not only that, this obvious savior complex is apparent in the 3 books that he self-published. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Not only am I getting ahead of myself, I just don't think this story is real. That's just me again. Another constant trait of Onision's is his need to be in a relationship. and his incessant need to stick his dick in things started at an early age. He tells readers he got his first kiss at the age of 11 from a 15-year-old. This relationship really seems to have stuck with Greg, as it appears to be the basis of his third book, Reaper's Creek. Despite both being underage, something really stuck out to me in the journal entry on this relationship. Onision writes in the little blog entry, "I recall something very clearly that the 15-year-old said. You have the heart of a 15-year-old. At the time, and even no, I think it was cheesy, but the truth of the matter is, she meant something more. That I am older in my mind than many. Why else do you think I call men boys? Because I am one of them, and I am too stupid to figure out how to make myself a man." The whole act older thing really stuck out to me. The use of this tactic could have imprinted on Greg, considering his predatory future. In a 2006 investigation on online predators, one of the suspects wrote to an agent pretending to be an underage girl, quote, "Well, you act older, and as long as the age don't bother you, it don't bother me." Greg also details how he wanted to bang his friend's sister in this little early years blog he wrote, along with detailing some other of his early teen relationships. Greg in his YouTube career would later go on to detail his early love life.
First girl that I ever dated, her name was Aubrey. Actually, I don't really think that I dated her. I kind of just said that I loved her. We were in second grade, and I think I said something like, "Do you love me?" And I think she said, "I don't know." And I was like, "Oh, well, I love you." And let's not forget Monica. Let's talk about Shuri.
A 30-plus-year-old man going online talking about his relationships and reminiscing is a little weird to me. But hey, I don't come here and tell you my first boyfriend, and I don't understand the mindset that would cause someone to do that. A more interesting post of his early years is one where he describes how he met an evil spirit while playing with a Ouija board. I'm not joking. He said the Ouija board told him it was something called Gudala. Now, I may not be a ghost whisperer, but to me it sounds like either BS or like it was a ghost cat walking around the board choosing random letters. Because, you know, even in the afterlife, cats gotta get in your space and just mess up things. Onision in the entry writes, "That's one of the first times I felt the power in negativity. Evil, even. I asked Gudala who he liked. The cursor quickly moved towards me. I then asked if he had ever been inside our bodies. He told me that he was inside mine 19 times. This, of course, does not mean I was possessed. Rather, he saw through my eyes." That's right, you guys. At the age of 13, Onision was possessed by a demon. You can't make this stuff up. If I were the superstitious type, I'd place the bet that Onision was actually possessed that day. But to be honest, it, again, probably has to do with an undiagnosed personality disorder, along with maybe his upbringing. Speaking of his upbringing, Onision writes, "My father, Randy Gray, is accused of being a sexual violator, a liar, a fraud, even wicked. Over time, I began to believe, I'm almost certain now, the stories were true. He tormented me for a short duration when I lived in his house for 6 months, taking away my liberties, my music, my entertainment, telling me I was not the son he wanted by trying to change my personality. He treated me like I was a criminal in his house, when really he was the criminal, though he had never been officially called on it, other than the various letters to the courts claiming he had violated various women who all testified. He lied to me so often. He's struck me violently before for calling his wife a name, a cuss word. What have I done to him? Fought back, fought to get home with my sane parent, my mother, Tammy Jane. My father currently lives in Ohio, a pastor at church. Currently working with Habitat for Humanity. Something good can come out of something so very impure, it seems." The bad relationship with his father became a constant topic during his YouTube career, frequently referencing his experience to try to excuse his own behavior.
While the actual criminals are sneaking right under your nose undetected. And you think out of all people I would know because my own father is an accused child predator.
But, well, there's something particularly strange about his mother as well. According to Greg, later in life, his mother was known to give him naked massages.
On top of this, you should know that my mom was once a masseuse. She actually once gave me a full body massage with lotion and everything. She massaged basically my entire body, only naturally she avoided my genitals.
That's a little bizarre, but I have also never had a professional massage myself. And I'm not trying to get accused of slander here. That's called an opinion, Greg. Don't come for me. Onision's online presence began in 2001 when he created 2 sites. The first site being titled Inc. Ink is not that interesting, to be honest. Just an entry on the long list of Onision throwing things into the wall to try to find success. The site is still available to be viewed today, and essentially contained Greg's thoughts and photos from 5th through 8th grade, and as well as advice. His next online endeavor that he partook in was a website that he titled, that's way too edgy for me. He titled this site, Cries of the Crypt. The website was on a free hosting site, and not too much of it was unique, besides the fact that Onision made a section dedicated to hate mail. And interestingly enough, he only received hate mail from someone named Devin. And even more fun, Devin wanted to prove to Greg that skateboards were better than rollerblades. Now that's some early 2000s right there, isn't it? Both sites had a very short life, however, and were only the start of Onision making over 9,000 websites.
It's over 9,000! What, 9,000?
Continuing. With the coming of the year of 2002, Onision spread himself out with 3 more sites. They were titled Gamer Shadow, Hybrid Eye, and Metal Gear Solid 2: Substance. Of these 3 sites, drama began to appear on the website Gamer Shadow. According to the Life of Onion wiki, on the original About page, it is revealed 2 people came up with the site together. On the contact page, it says Jad is the owner of the site, and Odicon, aka Greg, is the webmaster. The site included game reviews, wallpapers, downloadable music, and forums. So when I said the site had drama, yes it did. According to the Life of Onion website again, one such drama was reported on September 10th, 2002. The title of the update, in all caps, read, Gaining Morals, Eliminating Waste. The update explained that there had been a couple of lowlifes on the forum mocking and attacking the members of Gamer Shadow. An ex-staff member joined in and attacked the webmaster, aka Greg's, integrity. These members were banned from the site. The next drama happened later that year in 2002. It wasn't really important to Greg's involvement, as it was more issues people had about the integrity of the game reviews on the website. Rise up, gamers. The next website, Hybrid Eye, was also very interesting. When visiting the Life of Onion wiki once more, the initial description of this website was a site Greg ran and created back in 2002. It only survived for less than a year. The site can be viewed through the Wayback Machine. Hybrid Eye appeared to be created to share Greg's literature and music, and to advertise his Sin Within Inc. website company. Eventually, Greg began to post others' literature and artwork as well. Odd was Greg's alias on Hybrid Eye. A lot of Greg's writing from the site are missing, but the most prolific and still existing is Greg's writing about religion. He starts out his passage on religion writing, quote, a gift to society or another trick for gullible minds, end quote. The text that Onision's anti-religious post contains is what I can only summarize as a series of fedora-tipping, run-on sentences. I have tried to read through them and analyze them, but Onision really, like many other of his endeavors, is throwing a bunch of BS at the wind and trying to make sense. I read through every single writing post Onision has made, and they all suck. Which, honestly sums up Greg as a whole. Video over. We're done. Video over! Just kidding, I got more to go through. The next website of this year was called Metal Gear Solid: Substance. It was about Metal Gear Solid 2 before its release, and it tried to guess what the game was about. The best insight to this website comes from a previous member who wrote about interacting with the early years of Greg, aka Onision. This person wrote, Onision was an admin. He ruled with an iron fist. He fiercely attacked anything different from him, even taking administrative action. He turned his entire community against him. His behavior was always erratic. He would get extremely angry if you ever questioned him, criticized him, contradicted him, etc. It became very apparent to all of us early on that he was mentally ill. At first, his delusions were minor. They weren't totally unrealistic, but he definitely saw himself as above other human beings. He would refer to himself in ways that would separate himself from the human race. As time went on, the delusions started manifesting in more serious ways. He invented something called Numa Numa. Now, I see a lot of you acting like this is no big deal, but it truly is. He really took that to heart. The post continued to detail Onision's delusions in his ghost hunting endeavors, and how it weirded out many users on how Onision believed he had supernatural powers. And the writer continues to write about Onision's YouTube videos, saying, I've also been subscribed to Onision a long time now. When I first rediscovered him, I found it amusing, but slowly his videos became disturbing, especially considering how young his audience is. The way he portrays his opinions is very dogmatic. The control he takes over some of you guys is terrifying. Look, I know you all humiliated the haters when they accused him of being a cult leader, but you don't understand that he seriously has a long history of cult-like behavior. The writer continues his entry by detailing what he believes to be the key problem with Greg's online presence, writing. Onision has an incredible talent for manipulation. He always has, but he's gotten much better now. I've remained silent a long time. I figured the sorts of beliefs Onision was pushing on people weren't that dangerous, but his erratic, dogmatic expression of them is dangerous. It's not what he believes that needs to be looked for, it's how he sees the importance of his own opinions. Maybe he's no longer 100% cultish, but his opinion videos are 100%. Many people who follow Greg's online drama believe Onision to have narcissistic personality disorder, but the user had a very different diagnosis. Greg is very obviously bipolar, perhaps schizoaffective, when you consider the extremity of his delusions, which is not to say he is untreatable or permanently damaged. He's simply unmedicated and, as far as I know, does not seek treatment. He likes to redefine his mental illness into some sort of martyrdom. That's where the cult-like behavior stems from. He can't bring himself to admit what he is, so he redefines it as a social leader, some sort of Ubermensch, come to save us all, a larger-than-life sort of person. Simply by looking at his videos, you can tell when he is in a depressive stage or a manic stage. He has long periods of nothing but dark, self-hating videos, and then he wipes the slate clean and starts over with this ridiculous, super happy, not so funny immaturity, and he becomes extremely productive during these stages, but also the quality of the writing is non-existent, very common for creative bipolars. The rest of the post is very long and very telling, concluding that having the underage fan base that Onision has is very dangerous. No doubt, some amazing foresight considering. The problem is a bunch of kids with not enough real-world experience to understand who Greg really is. They believe he is who he wants to be, that larger-than-life sage full of wisdom and enlightenment. And it is important that you understand why people criticize him rather than blowing them off. I understand they come on strong. Some guy, username, definitely did. He attacked him as if he was Hitler, and Onision does come off that way. I don't want to do that. I just don't want him messing with your heads unintentionally. Be a fan all you want. Just don't take this revolution seriously, because it's just an egomaniacal bipolar defense mechanism, and that's all it is. That's all it's ever been, ever since I first met him." End quote. I could end the video here because that was a very good analysis. 2003 was a big year for Greg. In this year, he made 2 new websites, one titled Death Reaper. According to the Life of Onion website, Death Reaper, besides the horribly shite, edgy name, contained different forms of entertainment created by Greg, including literature and music. The site shut down in 2004. However, the site can still be viewed through the Wayback Machine. Here we go with the most important part of Onision during this time. Bum, 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 bum. So Seska, Onision claimed to have made a religion at age 11, which, yeah right, but he made a website for it in 2003. The name of this religion? Seska. I hate this religion. It is the embodiment of shite. I entered the site via the Wayback Machine, and the welcome message reads, "Welcome viewers of Seska. The literary documents provided on the site introduce and evaluate an amazing reality, which is now finding homes in millions of informative, hungry minds all over the earth. For the recorded years of humanity, one of the many questions before intrigued minds has revolved around the most important topic of all subjects. What is existence for? How do we exist? Seska has become an answer to the vital question concerning our lives through logical yet amazing facts involving the past and present world. Those capable of understanding Seska and the perspectives provided will find the key so many have been searching for. Today, you have the opportunity to observe an alternative mentality, a path divided from the default standards involving simple beliefs that have convinced most all one time or another. Existence is a seemingly complicated subject that so few have neared a proper conclusion to define beyond mere present time. Diversions through methods involving excuses such as downing human capabilities are oftentimes given freely to avoid confrontation of the reality at hand. We have the ability to explain ourselves, and here you will find out how true the statement really is. You have entered a new section of human comprehension. Those seeking a meaningful answer to settle what no system of beliefs has before will continue on through the pages our work has to offer. All others visiting our site today will continue their lives devoid of these rare perspectives. The choice is yours. At the bottom of the welcome message is a continue, which leads visitors to a page where Onision attempts to come up with the meaning of life. The thing about Greg is he likes to think every thought he has is some tremendously insightful thing. The meaning of life that he has on this page, it comes off as if he got really high and watched Princess Mononoke. Because his meaning of life, protect the environment. Really insightful, Greg. Nobody has ever thought of that. Really insightful, Greg. Real insightful. Nobody ever thought of that. Oh, protect the environment. So smart. Give this guy a Nobel Peace Prize. The religion he created is stupid as hell. He would use this religion he created and attempt to indoctrinate people because he works as a cult leader. So Seska is bullshit, and Onision for years tried to peddle it. In a 2005 email he posted to one of his gajillion websites, Greg wrote someone saying, "I am often a sociopath. I find that you describe yourself somewhat in this way too. If I am being damaged emotionally to an extreme extent, like if someone is breaking up with me or someone had just cheated on me, or someone just told me I should die or no longer exist, all coming from those I care about, my emotions will shut down and I will begin saying things that I mean, but in a stronger sense, more blunt sense." All of the above examples really happened. I told my first love that she no longer deserved my time, and I ended our conversations until I healed, once due to her drug use, second to her cheating, and there was no third. This are the significant breakups I mentioned. Then there was the various breakups on their part towards me. Most did not matter, but some did, in which I smiled, not feeling a thing, sometimes never feeling at all. And lastly, my ex-girlfriend's sister, of which I began to love like family. She told me she wished I would die. She wished I did not exist. I smiled and said she was horrible for saying those things. I said she was ugly on the inside, that she did not deserve to look at me. I made her cry many times due to what she said to me. In a way, this makes me feel like a monster. In a way, this makes me a god. What a fucking weirdo. Continuing. Because Onision needs 2:3 RP, he then adds in, sighs deeply. I invented a religion, one I believe anyone who wants peace towards, not on, Earth, and less discrimination in our lives would follow. It follows the philosophy that we all came from Earth, it is our true mother, and that any hand which hurts it and disrespects it should fall back to it, so they may be used to feed those less destructive, such as the soil. You should see it too. Says Seska. Most people call me crazy for making it up, so I asked them how their religion came about. It always started by men like me. Only I am honest. I was not using drugs when I wrote that. I was not using drugs when I wrote what I did. I was not in a desert hallucinating when I wrote what I did. I did not base my entire faith off of my eyes, in a way. What I believe is barely a faith. It is more fact. So many people base their purpose on higher power. Something they have no proof of existing. I nearly bled to death in a church of God. Remember the pew thing? That's what he's fucking talking about. No one was there to rescue me but my mother. Where is any proof valid enough to dedicate your life, to de-educate my life in such a manner? That is one of the few true sins. I am bored of men believing strength of body equates out to universal dominance. I am bored of women saying girl power, which only turns into girl disgrace when they put their might up to man's. Most have weakness of the mind, which leads to inevitable failure of the body, of the spirit. I could never love a woman so small in heart, nor will I ever adore a man who feels women should tremble at their feet. I am telling you all this, Black Rose, as you want to know more about me. I may shine a new aura to you know, but I doubt it is an unwelcome glow. I mentioned before how people have called me a liar. I assure you, those people who name such names, they look into a mental reflection when they state such claims. For I'll lie upon nothing but the floor, and that day is the day I die. You inspire me with your wicked smile, Rose. Write me back. Your words are anticipated. Goodbye, my Margaret. Signed, Gregory J. Oh, wow! So he just admitted he's a sociopath and talked about enjoying making people cry. Thanks for writing it out there, Greg. I didn't have to ask a psychiatrist for some information. Onision even came up with a little vocab list for his religion. Remember to take notes, kids, because there'll be a vocab quiz at the end of this lesson. Phrase 1. Zodin. Zodin is the souls which have never experienced human occupation of given right. Oftentimes, sociopaths due to lack an experience of human emotion through a first-person perspective. Zodin attack weak humans, which would explain haunted houses. Savant. Savants are post-human souls which have experienced the honor of being awarded a human body to dwell in. Devant. The space/realm unseen by human eyes, which all savants and Zodins dwell. The Seska site states some humans can travel to the Devant to help the savants keep away the Zodins. Greg suggests by occupying the Devant realm, humans could escape physical threats such as murder or biochemical attacks. The next vocab term, aliens. Alien abductions are real, and they are just more advanced species from other planets studying us. Some people think they may have been abducted, but really, they were suffering from sleep paralysis. The reason outside species study us is because they don't understand the energies the Earth creates and shares with its creatures. That's right, guys. Onision was a young, less successful L. Ron Hubbard. Too bad he didn't pitch this to Tom Cruise. Then he wouldn't be begging 14-year-old blue-haired chicks for $2 on Patreon in current year. Greg created a string of web hosting, website promotion, and website developing sites as well at this time. They are NewbieHost, Nickmo, ForFree.us, Online Forums Biz, WebPortal.tv, and iDesigns. Also during 2003 is when Onision began dating his future ex-wife Skye. Skye says she saw Greg for the first time in their high school computer class in 2001, but Greg says he did not notice her because he was still dating someone named Cherie, an ex from high school that Greg to this day still fondly speaks of. Skye and Greg did not start talking until 2003 when they both took the same weightlifting class. Greg says he decided to start talking to her because she had a dark aura, despite dressing quote-unquote normally, and she seemed like she did not need anyone. He said he would start conversations with her every time they had class together, even though she seemed to think he was a weirdo for talking to her. He says they began to talk at the bus stop as well, even though she was still acting distant and like he was weird, his words. But later he believed she wanted him around all along. When the school year ended, he did not talk to her until she logged onto AOL one day. She invited him over and they hit it off. After a few visits, he says he developed feelings for her. He felt that he never had to worry about leaving her and that they shared a lot of skills and values. The relationship between Skye and Greg was rocky even from the start, mostly due to Greg's interest in Skye's younger sister, Alicia. According to very recent confessions from Skye and her sister, who also goes by the username Netunessa, when Greg was 18 and Skye was 15, quote, Alicia, the younger sister of Greg's first wife Skye, states that when she was 15 and Greg was 18, she had too much to drink at a function. Greg made a move and tried to kiss her. She was horrified and ran back to her friend.
You came here to find out the results of a lie detector. We're going to give you the results, all right?
She even tried to kiss me at one point, and I dodged it because, one, she was intoxicated, and two, again, our age gap, well, I'm not sure it was legal. I think it was legal, actually. But either way, I still dodged the kiss, so I wouldn't even risk something illegal happening.
The lie detector test determined that was a lie.
Greg continued to have an obsession with Skye's sister over the years, which will be discussed as we move forward. With the coming of 2004, Onision took his turn in more online activities. He created yet another website for his literature, which was titled Evo Saga. The welcome message on the site links many of Greg's other websites. These include MrOdd.com, OneManBand.com, EvoPsych.com, Prevention.info, Seska.com, AmericasAirForce.com, Nickmo.com, GamerShadow.com, and MessageHorde.com. You heard that right, you guys. He made a prevention website. So, in order to not go too long, I'll just sum this up. He told possible victims to doo-doo on rapists to not get raped. stopped. It was a very bad website. Back to the Evo Saga website, the most interesting piece of writing on Evo Saga was one where Gregory addressed a suicidal girl in multiple parts. His dismissal of others' feelings is very prevalent in how he addresses this girl. Writing in one of the entries, "From what you described in your life, I am very confused, as you make it sound worse than it really is. You do feel sorry for yourself, and you don't seem to realize that there are billions of people in this world, the majority, who are worse off than you will ever be." Onision also blames the girl for how she feels, which is very similar to Onision treating other suicidal thoughts very lightly. Once he did it in 2013 over a member on his board. We will talk about that when the time comes. And another time is when a fan wrote him about their suicidal thoughts due to abuse, where Onision mocks them for it.
Onision, how can I cope with a verbally and emotionally abusive mother? I'm 17, I've been hospitalized twice because of suicidal thoughts, depression caused by the words my mother would say to me. First of all, I don't think you can really blame your suicidal thoughts / depression on anyone but yourself.
We will really get into Onision's hypocrisy and treating of others' feelings as we go through the timeline. But here's a hint. Onision has suicide baited many times in his career for sympathy over things like being demonetized on YouTube and having to pay his ex alimony.
This is one of the worst days of my life because before I decided to do YouTube, I had a gun in my head and I was considering pulling the trigger. And now it's looking like the whole YouTube thing might be over.
So I hope I portrayed at least some of how Onision is a messed up individual in his early years before we continue, because we will really need to get into the roller coaster ride of his military service. You see, 2005 was a busy year for Onision. This is the year Onision joined the Air Force. There has been people who have questioned Onision's representation of his military service. So I will warn you, I am just going to go through how he described his time there according to him. I also watched a live streamer by the name of Tommy C, who is also a war veteran, and he did a live stream where he went over Onision's tale of his military service.
Right. Almost 20 years combined between the two of us. We got a little bit of a leg to stand on.
Yeah. I do not intend in this part to disrespect veterans. I merely want to weave together a timeline according to what Onision claims, as well as compare it to what little I can learn about military service as a civilian. Onision joined the Air Force January 3rd, 2005. While in the Air Force, Onision creates several online journals / blogs to detail his time in the military. This includes the website America's Air Force. The other blogs are the Evo Saga blog, his 2005 journal, and his Airman Daniel's journal. There was also something called Tard Out that I failed to mention earlier. It was this stupid radio show Onision tried to make, but in 2005 it was attacked during the month of February. Although this doesn't matter too much in Onision's career, what was entertaining about it was Onision's claims on the website. During early February 2005, the site was down with a message from Greg stating it was hacked by Jesus crazy Brazilian hackers. Greg provides the hacker site and email addresses and states, "This proves that just because you love Jesus does not mean you are immune to arrest by the US government due to cyber terrorism."
And you've been reported to the cyber police and the state police. So you better write one more thing or screw with my computer again, you'll be arrested.
That's right, it was hacked by those dang religious Brazilians. Later on that year, Onision turned the Tardat website to his Gregory J site. Sorry if me mentioning these various over 9,000 websites is hard to follow. It's hard to follow for me too. Gregory graduated boot camp and began SEER training. SEER stands for Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape. Also, some further information on SEER. According to Wikipedia, SEER is a program that provides U.S. military personnel, U.S. Department of Defense civilians, and private military contractors with training in invading capture, survival skills, and the military code of conduct. Most higher-level SEER students are military aircrew and special operations personnel considered to be at high risk of capture. From my personal limited military knowledge, SEER is a pretty high-up thing to be allowed in. When I say that, I mean Tommy C and his co-host on the stream I was watching where they went over Onision's military years seemed rather impressed by it.
SEER school in friggin' SF and even in the Air Force is pretty fucking high speed.
In the month of March of that year, Skye's mom warned Skye about continuing a relationship with Greg, telling her daughter, quote, "Be careful around Greg because of his anger." A warning that Skye no doubt regrets not taking to heart considering what happened later in their relationship. Onision confronted Skye's mom over this, which resulted in a series of emails between the two, discussing separation. Greg forwarded these emails to one of his exes for advice, and then, well, tries to get back with Sheree, like the absolute Chad that he is.
Lomax Chad doesn't even think about getting any hookups. For him, the ladies are an endless commodity to him.
You know how us outsiders know about this? Well, like the oversharing little fago that Onion Boy is, he published many of his emails to his Evo Saga website. Despite all of his insanity and Skye's mother's worry, Onision and Skye got engaged on May 28th. According to Onision's Airman Journal, he graduated from basic training June 2nd, 2005, but things immediately began to go downhill from here. June 4th, Onision posted to his journal about a rabbit, writing, "Yesterday I witnessed 3 rabbits dying due to snakes. Very large snakes, eating them whole. After we had worked out all morning, we were told to switch out on watching this anaconda-like snakes," the bad grammar is from his writing, "to make sure they did not escape, while the other members of our seer training group cleaned out the rancid place of stay for the snakes. Our boss came out, bunny after bunny, feeding the snakes, while a select few went into the woods and released an opossum. I have never witnessed such a loss of life as I did today. I am rather inexperienced with such things." But as others laughed and pointed, I stood still, valuing both the life of the snake and the life of the rabbit. Onision's value in the life of rabbits through his military training will persist as time goes on, because shortly after, on June 20th, Onision dropped out of his career training due to his refusal to kill a rabbit, which was part of seer survival training. In a journal entry Onision posted on the following day, he laments on how he has to weigh his career versus killing a rabbit. Some anti-Onision critics speculate this is just Onision attempting to be discharged thanks to a conscientious objector status, but it could also be due to him maybe not having what it takes to complete his training. Which, to be fair, and I am referencing Tommy C's stream once again here, not many people can make it through the training. On June 30th, Onision also gets a letter of reprimand, which was unexpected to him, something he posted briefly about on his Gregory J website. According to Tommy C, a letter of reprimand can be a career ender.
Have not been able to confirm. LOR is a
Letter of reprimand.
This is a career ender.
Greg says he had a meltdown after getting an LOR because he refused to clean a post a senior airman told him to clean, after a lieutenant colonel told him not to. He says this would have been the first disciplinary action against him. He stripped completely naked in the Chief Master Sergeant's office. He says he did this because he wanted them to know he was a human being and not a robot. He says they dressed him and put him in a cell for 10 minutes, then let him go. July 18th, Onision reveals to readers what can be interpreted as another attempt to be dismissed from the military as he went to medical due to chest pains. He writes in the entry, "The doctor suggested I was trying to get out of the Air Force. I guess because he gets it a lot. But I condemned the thought and told him I was serious, and it was an issue he needed to look into." The doctor is not the only person there that thinks Onion Senpai is trying to get out of his service. As he says in this entry, other people constantly tell him he is gonna get kicked out. Not only that, in the same entry, Onision details that a sergeant hates him, writing, "On Friday, I found out a sergeant hates me, pretty much despises me. He accused me of having an air gun in my room, which I never even seen any evidence of or thought of having one. So I made a weird face when he suggested this. Then stated I had called him a liar based on my facial expression alone. I was yelled at for a long while, just for a facial expression, though despite this, I went to his office later on, explained in more detail as to what I had made a face for, and they seemed okay thereafter. Today, I was called to his office to explain a waiver that I had received for my heart issue. He then asked me if he had told me to do something that morning, as I did not do it, and I replied to him after a short pause, I did not want to contradict you, of course meaning, no, you never told me that. He then called me a piece of work and asked about my appointment. Did you at least get separated from the Air Force? Which was when I flat out found out he wanted me gone. I don't know what I did to this man. I offer respect to everyone who outranks me beyond BMT ranks. I treat them accordingly. I've tried to do everything right, and when the right thing is not available, I do what's next in line and ask for help. He does not agree with any of it. It's sad. I'm trying to meet an impossible standard when someone does not like you, when they despise you. Like this. I don't see a light or a solution. I can only avoid the issue and hope it passes. It seems to me that even though Onision is writing this for the sympathy of his readers, he seems pretty insufferable during this time. Like, it's everyone's fault but himself. Much like every other time in Onision's life. Not all is bad, though, in Onision's career, as he did get some appraisal for creating a seer website at some point in August. And in August, Onision and Skye get married in a Texas court. The marriage, even from the get-go, is not great for Skye. In a Google Doc I will link below going into the details of Onision's past of abuse, a contributor writes, August 5th, 2005, Greg marries Skye. During the 5-year marriage, he demands she keep her hair short and claims that if she does not wear shorts under her skirt, she could get raped. Skye also claims he would spend 3 hours masturbating to tentacle rape hentai most mornings so he could focus for the rest of the day. According to the Life of Onion website, Onision shortly after his marriage begins training for, I think, special ops or security or something along the lines in Texas. This does not start a positive slope in Onision's military career, however, because on September 3rd, Onision is written up for saying something bad. But Onision, to this day, refuses to say what he said. Not much else happens in 2005. In December, he gets an apartment with Skye. 2006 rolls around with Onision still in the military. Not much really happens in the year of 2006, as far as we know, except that Onision starts his YouTube channel in January of that year. By June 2007, Onision and Skye were both living together in South Korea. What is most disturbing about 2007 is Onision's blatant and obvious isolation of his wife, Skye, from others. In a blog posted in January of that year, Onision writes, Alright, so it has been a few days since Skye and I hung out with another couple. Judging from the fact that these people were the only ones we knew that had a lifestyle that wasn't drugged out, beard out, also known as drugged out, smoked out, ethically lacking, rude, etc. And we can't even enjoy ourselves around them as much as we do each other. I just really don't see myself and Skye spending time with anyone in the future other than family. It seems that everyone who isn't blood related has something extremely wrong with them. It may not be apparent at first, like a used car. 3 days after the post, Skye's friends tried to intervene. Isolation is a common tactic of abusers. And merely Googling isolation and abuse.
If you only took the time to Google it.
Many different mental health sites go into detail on how it is an early step in abusive relationships. Onision, being the mad lad that he is, replied to this on his blog and told the friends that they are in fact the ones that are bad for Skye because they can't look past his personality and they don't know he tells Skye he loves her every day. The isolation Onision put Skye through furthered in that year. In a blog he wrote in August, he goes into detail why he did not want Skye to work, writing, Another issue has come up with Skye obtaining a job. I've recently deeply considered the possibility of her obtaining a job, and again, it seems so inappropriate. The reasoning behind this is that she simply would not see me nearly as much as she does now, and this is unacceptable. If she is going to have a job, she must still be able to see me at least 80% of my time off work. And with me currently working a midnight schedule, we would be lucky to see each other 50% of my off time. I do not like this percentage. Though it would be a part-time job, it would also be a day job, and in result, it would alter her sleep schedule, taking many more hours away on top of the working hours. Onision getting in the way of Skye getting a job would come up later in terms of his hypocrisy. But later on that year, Onision began seeing YouTube as a viable way to work. In a journal from October, he tells readers he planned to devote 30% of his time to working on his YouTube videos. A lot of his early videos during this time focused on him and sometimes had Skye involved, the two of them doing random skits together. And although Onision was the focus of the channel, early fans also became fond of Skye. Onision has quite a shift in his life during the end of 2007. For one, Onision stopped referring to his military service. At some point during the year, he removed his name from his Air Force blogs. He begins referring to his military service as his job, instead of saying it has something to do with the military. Onision also looks back on a certain date in 2007, referencing it whenever he needs to evoke pity in order to gain money from the underage girls that think him oh so kawaii. That date, November 14th, 2007. On November 14th, 2007, Greg was still working for the US Air Force. He says that day he held a loaded gun to his head, but decided to live on to dedicate his life to making YouTube videos. The validity of this happening is questionable, and I could be a little bit more sympathetic, but as we go further, I cannot be sympathetic to Onision. And Greg loves to bring up this suicide attempt whenever he can.
At one point in my life, I held a gun to my own head.
Remember kids, if you're suicidal, it's your fault, like he said earlier in that blog referencing the suicidal girl. But when Greg is suicidal, it's inspirational, so remember to inspirationally donate to his Patreon. 2008 was the year Greg really picked up on YouTube. The Google Doc I regularly reference writes, the Onision YouTube channel begins to pick up. As the channel gains popularity, Greg actively prevents Skye from getting a full-time job so she can stay at home and work full-time on their YouTube channel all day, claiming that her having a job would mean that she won't see him as much, which he finds unacceptable. Around this time, Greg pulls a series of stunts so that he can receive a discharge under honorable conditions. One of these stunts includes a video. On July 29, 2008, Greg uploaded a video titled I'm So Death Machine to his YouTube channel. By this point, Greg has been regularly uploading videos to his YouTube channel. In the video, he criticizes the US military in a song and does various military associated actions, like push-ups and saluting, in an unmarked uniform. The next day, Greg wrote an online journal entry titled The Future in Question, where he says, as he expected, someone reported his video to the biggest boss there is at my work. He concludes he will either be jailed or fired for making the video. He explains his work needs to realize he is doing more damage than I am doing good. He says he requested removal with no screw-ups, but on religious and moral obligation. He says they torture him with meaningless tasks and a paycheck I don't need. He awaits his punishment and says if he disappears, it is because he is being held as a prisoner in South Korea. Not joking, guys. But concluding that, in a 2016 video Greg uploaded, he admits his higher-ups did not give a about that video.
Somebody threatened to tell my boss at work that I made it, and guess what happened? Nothing. None of the higher-ups actually cared.
But according to the Tommy C stream I keep referencing, this whole video is a big no-no while in service. Onision was eventually discharged after all his stupid freaking attempts. 2009 is not only a year of discharge for Onion-sama, but also a year of growth for him. March 7th of this year was when he began using a character named Chibi. Chibi seemed to be a parody of a famous early YouTuber by the name of Fred. Hey, it's Fred! This character was very popular at the time for Onision. I, for one, do not understand why, for obvious reasons. Onision also began his long-time obsession with fellow YouTuber at the time, Shane Dawson. In 2009, Greg had made 4 videos about Shane Dawson, including some in response to some video commenters saying he looks like Shane Dawson. One of the remaining videos was titled Shane Dawson? No! Uploaded November 18th, 2009. Although most of this video has nothing to do with Shane, in the middle Greg says, hey look everyone, I have long hair and I'm white. I must be Shane Dawson because we're all racist a-holes. Later that year, Onision was featured on Shane's channel, giving him many more subscribers.
First thing I thought was why not hire a Shane Dawson impersonator to make a video for me?
Hey guys, Shane Dawson here.
I thought that Onision was kind of drama-free this year till I rechecked my little handy-dandy timeline and I forgot to mention this. So in April 2009, he uploaded a controversial video called Murder Eaters. It was uploaded and then deleted by Greg. In the video, he shares his extremely strong feelings about non-vegetarians. In the video, Jackson says, "Let me ask you something. If you murder animals on a regular basis, do you really think I give a fuck about your opinion?" Many respond negatively to Jackson's posting, and several critical response videos follow.
So, Onision, I want you to know, in the back of your mind, with every video that you make, that 200 meat eaters are eating meat that they otherwise wouldn't have eaten because of you.
This video, Murder Eaters, is one of many examples of Lord Onion shoving his beliefs down others' throats, especially his views on vegetarianism. Now, part of me wants to go into productive ways of supporting a message, but when it comes to Onision, logic has no place. Onision is a terrible person to defend animal rights because he's a terrible person in general. Also during this year, Onision uploaded a video titled, "I'm a Banana," in September. This turned out to be Onision's single most popular video to this day, and would grant a false sense of fame to Onision over the years. If this were a Hollywood movie with some kind of narrative story arc, 2010 would mark the first dramatic climax in Onision's online career. The year started out with a dramatic bang. February 3rd brought Onision a lot of success thanks to a show called Tosh.0, an American television series hosted and produced by comedian Daniel Tosh. Onision's video, "I'm a Banana," appeared on that show, giving old Grease Jackson the false sense that he was now a celebrity. Also in February, people began to speculate that Onision and Skye got divorced. This almost is like foreshadowing at this point to the conclusion of the Part 1 saga, and Onision creates a video addressing the allegations. In the video, he talks very negatively about haters.
Haters united, haters united, haters united.
Guess who got divorced recently? Who? Onision.
Yeah, this man is in his 20s at this point. Publicly, Onision expresses his love for his wife Skye, but behind closed doors, it's not the same. In April, Onision begins talking to an underage Canadian pop star named Shiloh. According to Shiloh, she believed he was just being friendly to her, but Onision had ulterior motives. Referencing the abuse document, again, will be linked below, they talked often, sometimes 6 to 10 hours a day, over the course of their courtship. This is kept as a secret from Skye. Skye began to suffer severe depression as the relationship is deteriorating. May 1st, 2010, Greg makes a video going over the lover's pact he made Skye agree to, claiming it was mutual. One is to never keep secrets from one another, while the other requests both partners be healthy, claiming that it's selfish for one of them to gain weight and not take into consideration the other person's sexual needs. Despite Onision being public about a lover's pact, he is continuously unfaithful mentally to his wife. Shiloh, from what I've seen, says she thought this was a platonic relationship, and Skye would hear them Skyping thinking he was mentoring the underage girl. Later on, Shiloh even expressed that she would tell her mother she was going to collaborate with Greg and Skye. According to Onision, who is a very difficult person to believe ever, in June of that year, he threatened divorce with Skye, though Skye has a different story, saying the later events of the year being completely out of the blue. It's now December 2010, and meet fan, because on December 22nd, Greg drafts up a divorce contract saying that he will allow Skye to live rent-free in his apartment for a year. It is later thrown out in court as it was signed under duress and not notarized. Onision told his Facebook page publicly about the divorce on December 24th. He used his Christmas Eve holiday to obsess over his fake online e-fame, and perhaps also to try to get some attention from his single 14-year-old fans. He then filmed his last video with Skye on the 25th, because what better thing do they have to do than film very badly made YouTube videos? Publicly, Onision acted like this was an amicable breakup. It was not. Skye was harassed offline thanks to Onision's fans, so her story was not told until recently. Thanks to YouTuber Mr. Repsion, we got to hear how the divorce was. In September 2019, Repsion released a video where Skye informed him of the mental abuse Onision caused her. She told Repsion, "For clarification on missing floating details, and many apologies for some long reading sporadically throughout your day. When he initially came to me with the divorce papers, it came out of nowhere. He said he had been talking to Shiloh off and on, and she would sometimes be on Skype in the background. I thought he was mentoring a kid and giving them advice on videos / editing/etc, so it wasn't troubling at first. Then he got obsessive. He would be on Skype with her 8+ hours. I started asking questions, and he started dodging and being very dismissive. I glanced over at his screen, as at the time we had both been working on a dual desk setup in our office, and saw some pretty sketchy messages being sent and something along the lines of, "You're the only one who understands me." The next day, he started locking himself in the office, saying he was working on a big project. Was in there pretty much for 3 days, kept being dismissive, wouldn't let me use our only phone. And when Seer got sick, I drove him to the hospital. Didn't even care his friend caught the flu, just kept laughing and giggling in his office. After this, he took me aside one night and told me the following: "I'm going to divorce you because I finally found real happiness. I never loved you and was just afraid of being alone. If you want me to be happy, you'll let me do what I want." Upon which I clearly remember the look on his face, cold as a lizard on ice, dead-eyed, and with a smirk. He picks up his phone, calls Shiloh, and says, "It's done now. Now we can be together." Turns and walks away, locking himself in his room. The next day, looking like he was high in his own supply, he came to me in the afternoon, having printed out a divorce document demanding I sign it. He would proceed to follow me around the house for hours at a time, screaming at me that if I really loved him, I would sign the paperwork. Eventually, after the endless onslaught, I gave in as my spirit was quite broken. He still refused to let me use our phone. As this was around the holiday, I began prepping to see my family for Christmas in a daze of confusion. I was so despondent. I drove to my mom's house, and as soon as I stepped through the threshold, I broke down sobbing. I told them everything that had happened after I collapsed on the floor. My sister catching me and crying with me. She reveals to me that she was watching over me the whole time because she suspected he was up to something. My family has me call a crisis line. They find me a counselor. My sis and I go back to the house to grab my 2 cats and a few items. He walks out and merely asks if I'm going to his family's party. My sister says, "Of course she isn't." He just responds, "Well, that's gonna be awkward for me." He continues to get dressed, humming to himself. Seer is disturbed and tells me he is so sorry this is happening. Says he is going back home. I go back to my family with my sister and cats in tow. As you know the rest, he goes to Pennsylvania to visit Shiloh and such. I am with my family and I get a lawyer. My sister calls him and we find out he isn't home. He leaves a set of house keys behind and tells us where he put them. We go and move out. He then accuses my family of breaking in and stealing. Note the house is in both of our names. And posts footage online from security cameras. Fans begin to attack. I go full no contact. I go through my lawyers and keep seeing my counselor. I get a job to pay for the lawyer and borrow money from my family to retain them. As proceedings go along, the court determines the initial contract he made me sign is null because of all of the above, proven through my counselor, verifying my mental state, and the fact that it wasn't notarized proper, etc. Long story above explains the how and why his contract was thrown out. We'll work on trying to find divorce records where I stated this as well. Lots of scanning tonight. Have more to explain, but lunch breaks up. Feel free to post more cues and I'll respond when I'm off work. Thanks again. The separation does not slow down Onision's thirst for coochie in the least, because on December 27th, Craig hits a deer with the car he and Skye share on his way to PA, Canada.
Hey guys, real quick video. Yay! I hit a deer and killed it in my car. My car's now totaled.
He buys a plane ticket instead and meets Patient Zero, aka Shiloh, for the first time in a hotel room near Sandman Hotel. There's video evidence of the car accident to prove this.
So yeah, this is me admitting that I have officially, I don't know, assisted a deer in killing itself. That's not funny.
The first words she hears in person from Greg are, "I can't wait to get you pregnant." Back home, Patient Zero's mother has alerted the authorities that her daughter may be in danger. They search the hotel room on suspicion of filming child no-no videos, since Greg brought camera equipment, and they leave. Patient Zero recently came forward to tell her experience of this situation, writing, "My mother notified the hotel that you were there and the police arrived. We were asked to leave because the camera equipment in the room. Your computer was searched for child pornography. I was sent home. You flew back to Tacoma. You started to alienate me from my mother." There have been plenty of people questioning the age for consent laws and Onision going to Pennsylvania to have sex with the underage Shiloh at this time. We will go into that in the next video. Onision is a person who suffers from a vast amount of flaws. Flaws that don't evoke empathy in the least. Even in his early years, he proves how insufferable he is. Plenty of people are like that at a young age, even into their early 20s. Despite that, Onision is exceptional enough to continue to display the characteristics he showed in the early years well into his 30s. Sometimes, a person deemed a lolcow can eventually be redeemed or find the errors of their ways and continue on in life, usually by separating themselves from the internet. But Onision can't do that. I'd like to thank my patrons listened here. Anyways, have a great day, and see you in the next video.
As I'm sure you know, because I'm incredibly famous,
I have a show February 4th in Edmonton.
You support slavery? Okay, if your answer is no, then you don't support alimony.
she had sepsis. I'm still being violated every single month. Look at it. That's you right there.
Yes, you have. You destroyed everything. I'm forced to go back there.
And now I'm on the receiving end of so much criticism. I'm losing subscribers and likes like crazy.